Here we are at the Samuel Lee Academy for a very special interview we have with one person.
And that special person is Nino Polizzi. He's a retired third-year engineering in Boeing.
When the Soviets had that kind of a surprise launch of Sputnik and actually beat us into space by putting the first satellite up on October 4th of 1957, it literally shocked not just America, but the world. But people were very, very concerned because now you had something coming over your head every 90 minutes, right that you could literally see. And one of the reasons they painted, or didn't paint, but they made the Sputnik satellite very highly reflective, polished surface so that you could literally see it, not with the naked eye, but people could see it, and it also was sending out a beep that people could pick up on their ham radios and the like. So again, it was kind of a message from the Soviets that, hey, we're not to be discounted. We're, don't blow us off. We're a force to be reckoned with. So again, it really shocked America, and I think the good side of that was it really triggered a lot of action in the United States to kind of redouble our efforts, particularly in math and science education. There was a big push called the Sputnik moment, or the Sputnik effect, that said, hey, we've really got to buckle down and get these kids on the math and science and engineering track. So and I was right at that time, if you will. I was only 2 years old when it launched, but I was part of that whole movement then in school of a Sputnik response, if you will.
Okay, you answered 3 questions in one.
Oh, okay.
So the space race, is it mostly between the United States and the Soviet Union, or has other countries in it, such as Canada or any other?
Well, the space race as defined, if you say with the space race from, technically you could say it started with the launch of Sputnik and it ended with the landing of the Americans on the moon, right? Mm-hmm. If that was pretty much a U.S. and the Soviet Union contest. We were the 2 guys in there. There may be other little pieces here and there, but it was pretty much the U.S. versus the Soviet Union. Who was going to get to the moon first? Kennedy came out in 1961 and says, hey, we're going to get there by the end of the decade, which was an enormous challenge because at that time we only had 15 minutes of suborbital space flight from Alan Shepard. So he said, with just that little bit, he says, we're going to get to the moon within the next 9 years, which is an incredible challenge, which obviously we not only met, but we beat by a year. So again, to go back to your question though, yeah, it was pretty much just us and the Soviets. It was kind of like the capitalist system versus communism. Who was going to show the world that they were on top of things. So there was a lot at stake. There was a lot of countries' prestige and pride, and whose system was better at stake at that.
Okay. So that goes on to the next question. Do you know about the Blue Origin, and what are some thoughts you have about it?
Okay, I do know about Blue Origin, and you're talking about their most recent thing where they had a reusable...
They're landing the reusable rocket, and it landed perfectly in good conditions.
I thought that was great, and I congratulate them on that. Likewise with SpaceX now has had a couple of times a reusable booster return. I guess I would add the first time that was done though was on a project called DCX, and we flew that. Our first flight was on August 18th of 1993, where we did the first reusable. We took off, we translated over, and we made a nice controlled soft landing, and we went on to do 12 more with that. I'm glad to see now that other companies have caught up to that and surpassed that and are going to go on, because again, that's a huge milestone. So I'm very pleased to see both SpaceX and Blue Origin having achieved that milestone.
Okay.
Look forward to more out of those guys.
Yeah. So that goes on to another question. On January 28th, 1987, the shuttle Challenger exploded, and why did we continue funding the space program if that happened? Like, why did we continue the space program?
Continue? Well, The answer to that is if we would give up every time there was loss of life, if we would say, you know what, going into space is just too dangerous, let's not do it. If you take that same line of logic, people would have never set off across the ocean, right? Columbus would have said, you know what, you could get killed going across the ocean, which you could, and a lot of people did. So again, I think it showed that there was a couple of years slowdown. There were no flights, and people went to work and they found out what the problem was, and they made a number of improvements on that. But space flight is inherently very dangerous. It's not a routine thing. People are going to get killed, and if you just say, you know what, I don't want anybody to get killed, you're never going to do anything. So again, I think there was, and thank God that we didn't stop. Because there were some people who said, you know what, it is. We lost 7 lives. It's just too much, and so on and so forth. But again, if you take that attitude, you'll never do anything. Should we not go to Mars? People could get killed going to Mars. They might get killed going to Mars, right? So if you just want to say, I don't want to risk anybody's life, then again, you won't do much. So it's in the human, I think it's in part of the human DNA to go out and explore, and you have to take that risk as that's just part of the deal.
So what do you think our future looks like for the space industry so far, on how SpaceX and the other rocket, the Blue Origin, has gone?
Well, there's those, and there's also NASA has another rocket under development called SLS, Space Launch Systems, which is an enormous rocket on the same scale as the Saturn V was when we went to the moon. I'm hopeful that there's going to be a push outward now, NASA to get back in the game, and now that the shuttle was retired, so we haven't had any manned flights of our own now for the past several years. So I'm hopeful that SLS, which is supposed to fly in 2018 or 2019 with the intent of going far out, I'm hoping that kind of rekindles this spirit of exploration. Whether we go back to the moon, we go on to Mars, we go out to look at asteroids, whatever that is, but I think it's vital for this country to be very active in that. There's a whole slew of advantages that come from a very robust space program, and so I'm hoping to see that it kind of grows on that now.
Okay. One last question. So there's been a lot of talk about going to a mission to Mars. So what would be your point of view of going to Mars? Would it be a great thing to do, landing there and just making life? What would be your point of view on that?
Well, my point of view is we should go. We should have gone a long time ago. We could have gone a long time ago. So yes, we do need to go there. We do need to colonize it. We need to keep pushing. You can never stop and say, well, it's good enough. We know as much as we need to know. We're done. So you've seen there's been a lot of activity on Mars, a lot of probes, which hopefully are kind of, the precursors to manned landings. I know NASA's talking about a manned mission now to Mars. Again, it's still a ways off in the future, but again, I think it's critical that we go. Somebody's going to go, and I sure hope it's us, the U.S., that gets there first, and we don't let the Russians, the Chinese, or anybody else get there. I'm still in the old school, if you will, that we need to be in the front of the pack.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be it for this interview. Thank you, Mr. Pulitzer.
Thank you both very much.
All right.
Well, thank you guys very much for following us on this interview. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and we also hope you guys learned something about space travel. Thank you.